And let's create a new folder named components. And in here, let's create a component named layout.tsx. And I use React code snippets here as extension. So I just type RFC, hit enter, and I get this boilerplate here. And this layout component expects props named children. And children is of type React node, meaning it's another component. And for now, we are done with this. Now let's create another component. We name it my navbar. And I just name it my navbar because navbar is already occupied by React Bootstrap and I would get a naming conflict. So let's name it my navbar.tsx. And here again, I create boilerplate. And now let's head to React Bootstrap and look for... and sorry guys, before we use React Bootstrap, let's install React Bootstrap. This is important, of course. And now let's go to pages and let's create a file named _document.tsx. And here we can paste something in. And you see I provided already a link for Font Awesome. And here we can also provide a link for our Bootstrap CSS. And these links will be on all our NextJS pages. So we don't need to worry about getting proper CSS styling and getting these nice Font Awesome icons. And going back to React Bootstrap, let's grab this link here for our CSS styling. And we can paste it down below. I just can delete this cross origin here and we can delete this integrity thing here. And we can close the document.tsx file. Now let's go back to React Bootstrap and let's look for navbar. And we can grab this black one maybe, and we grab this whole navbar thing. We paste it in here and we import navbar and we import all the components. Now we can go back to our layout and in here, let's just make use of a fragment. And in this fragment, let's render our my navbar component. Next, let's create another component. We name it footer.tsx. Or I name it my footer. And yeah, here I just paste in some stuff. And here we just make use of a few Bootstrap components just for the layout styling. And we are done with the footer component. Now we can import the footer component in here. My footer like this. And since this layout component expects children which are of type React Node, we can wrap this layout component around other components. So let's do this in our _app.tsx file here. Here we can wrap this thing around this component here. Let's import it. And let's wrap it around this component here. And what you should see now is you should see the beautiful navbar here and our footer. Now let's customize our navbar a bit. Here in this brand component, let's say products. And then let's delete this href here. And let's wrap this products thing in a NextJS link component. And let's pass href as props to this component. And let's just simply say / like this. Now let's delete the last two nav links here. We do not need them. And let's name this thing here cart. And here we do not need to provide this link here. Here, let's make use of font awesome. In front of this cart thing here, I will paste something in. And we use this I tag here to get a nice shopping cart. Let's see how it looks like. You see it here. Let's give this nav thing here a margin left of auto by changing this from ME to ML. And you see it's pushed to the right side now. And then after this cart text here, let's open up a span tag. And let's provide some classes here for the span tag. I just paste them in. These are typical Bootstrap classes here. And they just make this thing here. And in here, in this red thing here, we want to display the number of items in our cart eventually. And I think we already can do it. We can display the number of 0 here. And for this, we need to access our global state. And to make it really comfortable and type safe for us, to access the global state and also to dispatch actions to update the global state, let's create 2 strongly typed hooks. And so let's create a folder named hooks here. And in the hooks folder, let's create a file and we name it hooks.ts. And in here, I paste some stuff in. You can find the stuff in the Redux Toolkit documentation. And the beauty of using these hooks is that we get nice autocompletion again, because they know everything about our state. And we will only make use of these 2 hooks rather than the standard hooks here. Now we can go back to our navbar here. And in front of this return statement here, let's say const products in cart is equal to use app selector. This is the hook we just created, yeah. And in here we get access to the state. And then we can access our cart and then this products in cart array. And because it's strongly typed, you see the type of this array here, yeah. And I also get this nice autocompletion here, as you can see. Nice. And now we should have access to the products in cart. And currently we do not have any products in this cart, right? But nevertheless, we should be able to display the number of items in the cart, which should be 0. And how we can achieve this is by using the higher order array method reduce again. We go into our span tag here, yeah. And in here we open up curly brackets. We say products in cart dot reduce. And here again we get access to the accumulator and the product. And we say in the function body accumulator plus product.quantity. And then again, to properly type the reduce method, we have to provide a comma after quantity and pass in 0. And look what happened, guys. Yay! We actually displaying the number of cart items. And currently we have 0 items in the array. Next, we want to be able, whenever we click on the cart, that our cart actually opens, right? So let's work on this functionality now. In order to get this functionality working, let's create another variable, const is cart open. Here again we use app selector to get access to the global state. And then here we can access this boolean property in our state. And since this is a strongly typed hook, we get squirrel lines here because we named it cart open. This was just my GitHub copilot that created this line for me. And as you can see, it's a boolean. So yeah, this is the power of using these hooks here. Yeah. And this is best practice, and you can read more about it on the official Redux Toolkit page. So they describe it that you should use them, yeah, just to have nice type safety. All right, now we have access to this Boolean from our global state. Now let's go to our nav link here and let's make use of onClick. And in here, let's create a function that returns dispatch. At the moment, we do not have dispatch here, so let's create it. Const dispatch is equal to use app dispatch. Yeah, this is our strongly typed hook that we just created before. And now we can use this dispatch function here. And let's open up parentheses. And in here, we have to make use of our action from our reducer. And we will use the open model action. And this open model action expects a Boolean. So in here, let's say bang operator is cart open. So what's happening here is we access the state, whether the cart is open or not, right? And then we use the opposite. So whenever we click here, we toggle this value. So for example, is cart open is true, meaning the cart is open. Then we want to dispatch an action to actually close the cart, right? And we do this by using this bang operator. So true becomes false and false becomes true. And I think now we are done with this navbar.tsx file. We can close it. We can close all other things as well. And now we need to actually work on our cart here. We can go to React Bootstrap again and we can search for off canvas. And I think we take this thing here. We just copy all the imports and the whole example function here. And then in our components folder, let's create a folder named cart.tsx. And we paste the stuff in here. Let's name this component cart. And let's export it. Export default. Now let's consume the cart state. So we know whether we have to open the cart or not, right? So let's define a variable here, const cart open, which is a Boolean. And we make use of use app selector. We get access to the state in here. And then we can access the cart open property in our cart state here. And here you see this show property on the off canvas component from React Bootstrap. And in here we can pass in cart open. And now let's see what happens when I click on this cart thing here. And we see nothing works, right? This is really bad. And now what we can do is we can go to our Redux DevTools. That's a Chrome extension. I highly recommend you to install it. It's really useful. And here you see that we dispatch an action from payment open modal, right? And here the thing is, we actually dispatch the wrong action, yeah? We dispatch the action for opening the payment modal, which is not our cart. So this is why it's not working. So what we have to do is we have to go back to our myNavbar component. And in here you see we dispatch open model, which comes from payment model slice, which is wrong. We need to dispatch another action and we need to dispatch the action coming from the cart slice, from cart, because here we named it cart and not payment. So we dispatch the wrong action. And in our cart slice, we have this open cart action. And this is the action we have to dispatch. So let's go back to my navbar. And then in here, we have to dispatch open cart like this. And we can delete the open model action here. Now let's try again. And going back to the Redux DevTools, you can see that we dispatch the correct action now, open cart, from our cart slice. And we named our cart slice cart. And you see that in our cart state, we have a property named cart open, which is true now. And you can also go to the div tab and you see the difference. cart open went from false to true. But still, we do not see our off-canvas component from React Bootstrap. And this is because we have to import the cart component into our app.tsx here. So above the component here, let's pass in our cart like this. And now let's hit the cart button again. And still nothing happening here. And the reason being, you see we have our children here, right? In our layout.tsx component. And we actually need to put them here so they will be rendered like this between our navbar and our footer. And in our case, the children are all the components that are wrapped in our layout. And here's our layout and it wraps around our cart and so on. And this was the reason why our cart was not rendered. And now let's see what's happening. If I click on this cart thing here, it will be opening. Yeah, you see? At the moment, it will not close. And we can work on this functionality now. In order to get the closing functionality done, let's dispatch an action here. And let's say dispatch. And again here, we need to make use of our strongly typed dispatch hook. So let's say const dispatch is equal to use app dispatch. Now we can dispatch an action here and we want to dispatch open cart and we want to set the property in our state to false. Let's import open cart from our cart slice and also let's import use app dispatch. And now we have this handle show here. Let's make use of our dispatch function again and dispatch our open cart action again, but this time with true. And since handle close and handle show are being used here and here, we have the functionality done now. We are able to open the cart and to close it. Now we can delete this button here. We do not need it. And for now we are done with this cart. Later we of course will add a lot more functionality to it and we want the cart to be able to show all our products in our cart and all the prices and of course also the total. And we will come back to this later because at the moment we do not have the functionality for adding items to the cart, right? So let's work on this now. Let's close the cart. Let's close the layout and also the navbar. Now let's create another component and we name it product.tsx. And this component will display a single product. And here we will make use of a React Bootstrap cart component. And in here we will have a link component from next link. And this link component will have href. And here we have to provide template strings. And then we say product slash and then product.id. So this will be the path to the product details page. If you click on a specific product, you will come to this page and here you will see the name, the description and the price of the product and you will be able to add it to your cart and so on. At the moment, this component does not expect to get a product as props. So let's change it here above. Let's say we expect props. Let's say here we expect a product. We destructured it from props. And then the product should be of type product type. And why do I use product type here instead of the product that we already have as type? The reason being, you see this thing here is named product already and we would get a naming conflict. And now I have to import product from our GraphQL types, but I have to give it an alias and I name it product type here. And now let's pass in some children for this link component here. And in here we just want to render an image from next/image. And this image will have a few properties. I just paste them in. and you see we have a source, and the source points to this images directory in public where we have all our images. Then we have an alt tag where we just provide the product name, then a width and a height, and we use object fit here so that the image is not stretched out in something like this, and so that it looks nice. And here's still an error. We have to import it like this, I think. Yeah. Now that we have our single product component, we are able to loop over all our products and display them. Let's go to our index.tsx file here. And in this file, let's create a variable and let's destructure the data property. And in here, let's create a variable const, which is in curly brackets data. And by the way, we don't need these things here. We can delete them. And our use query, we can type it, is of type get all products query. We have to provide the name of the query, and we named it get all products, I think. Get all products, yep. Because remember, in our GraphQL folder here, we have this get products query, and we named it get all products, right? So here we have to use it. And we also get some other properties here as well, such as error and loading, I think. But I don't want to make this video too long. Later we will make use of this loading property. I will show it to you, but for now let's not use it here. And here let's create a simple layout. Let's make use of fragments here. And then let's say we want to have a row from React Bootstrap. And in that row, let's say curly brackets, data dot products. And then we want to map over all the products that we have. And in here, we want to create a column for each product. And then in here, in this column, let's render our product component. And let's give it product as props. And of course, let's close this thing here. I need to provide another parentheses at the end. And of course, another one. And here, this must be on the same line as return. Otherwise, I get an error. And because we are looping over something and we are creating multiple columns here, we have to provide a key. And here we say product.id. And row and column come from React Bootstrap. So I have to import them. And finally, we are able to see all our products here. And when clicking on a product, we come to this product details page, but at the moment we do not have it. So let's create it. And the cool thing about NextJS is we do not need React Router. We simply can go to our pages folder and let's create another folder. We name it product. And in it, we create a file and we name it square brackets. And in the square brackets, we provide id.tsx. And now you see this thing here, we have product and then the ID maps to this here. Yeah, you also see we have product here and then the ID. This is how React routing works, and this is super easy, and you do not need this React router. You don't need to write all this code. And yeah, this is the beauty of NextJS. All right, so now let's work on our details page here. Let's create some boilerplate here and let's name this page product details, for example. And now you see the error is gone and we get this ID printed out here. And the beauty of NextJS is that it supports different types of rendering, such as client-side rendering, which ReactJS supports as well, but it also supports server-side rendering and static site generation and stuff like this. It's very good for SEO, meaning search engine optimization, and it makes the pages load super fast. And in our case here, since we already know what the user wants to see and the request is not dependent on user input, we always will serve a product details page here, and there's no user input involved. So we basically can make use of static site generation, meaning we can generate all the product details pages in advance by running npm run build, and then whenever we run npm start, these pages are being served instantly whenever we click on a specific product. It will be very fast, and it's very good for SEO, for user experience, because it's super fast and we will make use of it. So let's get started with it. And if you want to read more about it, you can go to the official NextJS docs. They are super good. They explain everything very well. They explain it much better than I ever could. And we have to use getStaticProps together with getStaticPath. And why we have to use them in conjunction, you will see soon. First of all, let's create an async function, which we have to export. And we name it getStaticProps. The name matters here. And this function will receive an argument named params. And params is of type object with the ID property. And here I have a typo. All right, and for now I delete this return statement here. And here, let's get a specific product. So we type const, then we destructure the data property from the response. And then we say equal await client dot query, and we have to import the client from our underscore app.tsx. That's where we instantiated it. And then we can type our query. It's of type get product by ID query. And we also can type the variables. And it's of type get product by ID query variables, all generated for us. And now let's provide parentheses and curly brackets, and in it we have to specify our query, which is the get product by ID query. Get product by ID query. And then we have to specify our variables. And here we just have to provide the ID, and the value for the ID comes from params.id. And now we are getting an error here because this params.id is a string, but ID must be a number. And this is the beauty of TypeScript and GraphQL here. Everything is fully typed and we see the errors immediately. This is so beautiful. And we can take this params.id and wrap it in a number like this. Now we turn this params.id into a number and we are fine. Finally, we have to return something here from getStaticProps, and it's an object with the props key. And in it we say product colon and then data.product like this. And everything is fully typed. And now we have to provide another function, export a sync function, getStaticPath. And in here we have to get all our products. Again, object destructuring here. And then we say await client.query, then get all products query, and it does not expect any arguments. So we do not need to type them. And as query, we use get all products like this. Now we have to create an object named path. which is equal to data.products.map. We get access to each product. And then we return params, colon, and then an object, ID, colon, product ID to string, like this. And we have to import get all products. And now that we have our path object here, we can say then return an object with path, comma, fallback, false. So what does get static path do now? It loops basically over all the products and it gets its ID here. And due to this logic, we have 6 different IDs. And since we have these 6 different IDs, 6 pages will be created with their corresponding data, right? All the product data will be fetched from the backend, and then these sites will be statically generated at build time whenever we run npm run build. And then these pages are static, meaning they are not generated anymore. And then we provided fallback false here. And this is because our data does not change. We will always have our 6 products only. So we do not need to provide fallback true. And since we provided fallback false here, only 6 pages will be generated because we only have 6 IDs here, right? We have 6 products. And if we try to access a page with an ID of 7 or something like this, it would not work. Then we always would get 404. And I think if we set it to true, NextJS would try to get the data, of the 7th product, for example, with the ID of 7. And then it would try to generate the product details page at quest time. But I'm not fully sure about this. You can read more about it here. Very good resources. And since we are providing the product here in our getStaticProps, we can access it in here. So here we can do object destructuring again and destructure product from props. And it's of type product, like this. And product comes from GraphQL types. First of all, we need our dispatch. So let's type const dispatch is equal to use app dispatch. And then we need our cart products, const products and cart, which is equal to use app selector. And in here we have a function that has access to the state, and it returns state.cart.products and cart, products and cart. And here we have to do filter now. And why we have to do it, I will explain after I have finished typing. And here we filter out the product with a specific ID. And here you see this is what we shouldn't do. We have 2 variables with the same name. So let's name this prod. And now it's better because here we have already our product. All right, what are we doing here? Basically, we want to get a specific product from the products in cart array. And we want to get the product with a specific ID. For example, we are on the product details page of the product with the ID of 6. So we only want to get the product with the ID of 6 in the products in cart array. And why do we only want to get this product? Well, we want to get this product so we are able to display its quantity here. We want to display its quantity here. And for this case, we only want to get a specific product here. And we have to be a little bit careful here because we are getting only one product. Because only one product matches this condition here, but this thing is still an array. So here we need to be a little bit careful. All right, now let's start to code our TSX here. Let's return here something, and we return a cart component from React Bootstrap. In here we have a cart header, and in the cart header we have an h3, and in here we display product.name. Then let's create a cart.body, and in here let's display product.description and product.price, and let's put them in p tags so it looks a bit better. Down below the last p tag, let's have a button component from React Bootstrap. Let's give this button a text of add to cart, and then down below this button, let's make use of the stack component from React Bootstrap. And in here we have two buttons. In the first button, we also add this I tag here, a plus sign. And then we have another button with the minus sign, like this. And we give the second button a variant of danger, maybe, like this. And here, the stack component allows us to stack components horizontally or vertically, and let's stack these buttons horizontally. So here, stack, we can provide a direction property, and let's say horizontal, like this. And then also we can provide a gap here, so there's some space between these two buttons. So we have a space here, a little gap. And now let's work on conditional rendering. Whenever this product has not been added to the cart, we want to display this add to cart button. And whenever there's already one product of this type in the cart, then we only want to display these two buttons. So how we can achieve this is by putting a curly bracket in front of this button thing here. And then we have to close this curly bracket after this stack component here. And then after this opening curly bracket, let's write products in cart. And then remember, it's an array. And then here we access the quantity. And if the quantity is 0, then we want to display this add to cart button. And let's also wrap this add to cart button in parentheses. And then otherwise, we want to display this stack thing here. And let's close the parentheses before this closing curly bracket here, like this. And it might be possible that we have 0 products in the cart, right? So we must put a question mark here. And now, beautiful. What you see now is